have you guys tried out the exercises? So these three were the exercises that I given in the last class. Uh, so, so did anyone find any difficulty, or could you finish it, all the three?
I could only do one.
I think yeah. Even the third one was pretty difficult for me. When I even I didn't expect it to be that difficult. I think
Yeah,
yeah.
I solved the second one. First one I got like first derivative is 1.
Okay, yeah, so I think I have solved that thing. Like I can share my
Right, okay.
question and we can go through together.
Yes.
So for the first one, so yeah, so for any function, even before we get the roots, it's important to see, like, can people get admit people, like, if I'm presenting, can someone, are you being able to admit?
No, we don't get the requests.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can do something to. So for this function, so we can see that at x is equal to 3, this function has no defined, this function is undefined when the denominator will be 0,
Yeah.
and we can, yeah, this function is undefined. So uh, then we can simplify this function into x plus 3 if you apply a square minus b square is equal to a plus b into a minus b. By saying x is not equal to 3. So x can't be 3. For all other values, we can have this simplification. So essentially, this function becomes a straight line, x plus 3, and we can get the root to be minus 3, 0. And we can substitute any other point and get another uh, uh, point. Then we can essentially plot this function to be a straight line. Then for the value of x equal to 3, it will be undefined. So it will be, what you say, I don't know exactly what we say for this. Yeah, it will be, there won't be any image for x at 0.3. Yeah, then we can calculate the derivative, and derivative is equal to 1. So which implies this function has no maxima or minima. It is monotonically increasing throughout the domain. So it has a slope of 1 and it's increasing throughout the domain. So the domain of the function will be r minus 3, set 3. So as 3 is not defined, and the range, the corresponding range will be r minus set 6. So this function is discontinuous, as for 0.3 there is no defined image.
How do you get the r minus 6 for range?
So we saw that this function is undefined at 0.3. So the corresponding image of the function, if the limit of the function when the function is approaching 3 would be 6. Like if we limit the function, limit x to x tend to 3 for the function, it will be 6. So how we can calculate it is, uh, so so limit of this function will be limit of the numerator divided by the limit of denominator. So here you can see when it approaches 3, it will be 0 by 0. So there is an rule called L'Hospital rule. So what essentially you can do is you can take the derivative of numerator and denominator and apply limits there. So as we could plot this function here, we essentially don't have to do the limit and all. We can see that the limit will be 6 for x equal to 3. But if this function were some other weird looking function, we could have got the derivative of numerator and denominator and applied limit. So essentially what we'll be getting will be 6.
So the numerator denominator derivative is like separate and not the.
Yeah. So that's what the L'Hospital says. So whenever we have when we apply limit and the limit tends to limit becomes 0 by 0 or infinity by infinity form, we can't really say where the function is tending to. So at those times we can so here if we take the derivative, it will be 2x divided by 1. So yeah, so 2x divided by 1. So when we substitute 3, it will be 6.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can so we can move on to the second one now. Yeah. So for the second one, so we can find the root and it will be 0 as e raised to x is always positive. And the only instance when this function can be 0 will be when x is equal to 0. So one of the root will be 0, 0, and we can get the derivative, and it will be e raised to x into 1 plus x. And when we try to find the extrema, it will be x equal to -1. So the one of the extreme point will be -1 by e. So then when we find the double derivative and find the value of the function at that point, value of the double derivative at that point, at the extrema point, it will be 1 by e. So 1 by e is a positive number. So it indicates this extrema that we found out is a minima. So it's the dy by dx is equal to 0, and d square y by dx square, the double derivative is positive. So it indicates -1 is a minima. So we got two informations. This function is passing through 0, 0, and this function has a minima at -1 by e. Then the then the other two information that we want to know is when this function is approaching either other two direction, like infinity index axis and minus infinity index axis, where is the function is tending to. So here we can so people understood to this point, no? Like, should I slow down or?
No, I think we understood.
So we got a root, and we got so I already plotted the function here, but still you can see we got a root here at 0, 0, and the minima at -1 by e. Now the only other information we want to see is how this function is behaving in other regions. So when x is tending to infinity, you can see e raised to x and x both are tending to infinity. So this function together will tend to infinity, and we can qualitatively plot this function as increasing and going to infinity. And when function is when x is tending to minus infinity, x will tend to minus infinity, and e raised to x will tend to 0. So here, so here we'll have to apply the L'Hospital rule as I explained earlier. So we can get essentially represent this same function as x by e raised to x when x tends to infinity. So x tends to minus infinity, x into e raised to x will be similar to x limit x tends to infinity, x by e raised to x. So applying the L'Hospital rule, we can get the derivative on numerator and denominator. It will be 1 by e raised to x. Then if we apply the limit here, it will be 1 by infinity and it's 0. So we can see the function will be approaching 0 along the negative x-axis.
Sorry, so how did you come to x upon e raised to power x?
Yeah, so e raised to minus infinity will be 1 by e raised to infinity.
Yeah.
So we can say x into e raised to x tends to minus infinity will be same as x by x into e raised to x tends to minus infinity will be same as x by e raised to x tends to infinity.
Okay,
So
and why do we apply the L'Hospital rule here?
So as for here you can see when x is approaching infinity, both x and e raised to x will be infinity. So we can't say what's happening at the limit when both numerator and denominator is approaching infinity.
Okay.
So so we can apply this rule and get the first derivative and get. Actually, this L'Hospital rule and all won't be required in this course. So but it's still better to know some basic things.
Okay.
So we can apply the limit and so here when we applied the took the derivative, it's 1 by e raised to x. So at the limit of x equal to infinity, it will be 1 by infinity, and it's equal to 0, and it's tending to 0. So we can qualitatively plot this function to be behaving like this. So the domain of the function will be, so you can comment on the domain at the beginning itself, as we know the domain of e raised to x and x, it's R, and you can say see all the for all the points in R, this function has image, so domain will be R. And we know that range of the e raised to x function is from 0 to infinity, and we only have to see what's the current minima for this function. So as we got it to be minus 1 by e, the current range of this function will be minus 1 to infinity. And I can show you the actual plot of this function. So this will be the actual quantitatively accurate plot of this function. So if you just plot e raised to x, it will be something like this, from range having from 0 to infinity. Then comes the third one, and this one was quite, even I did some weird way to solve. So let me go through it. So for this function, as we explained in the first case, this function also has an undefined point at x is equal to minus 1 by 4. So when x is equal to minus 1 by 4, this function is undefined. And we can get the root to be x equal to 0. So this function will be 0 when x is equal to 0, and the denominator can't only at the instant when x is equal to 0, this function will become 0. So the root will be 0, 0. Then we can get the derivative. Actually, so we can get the first derivative and see that the function, the first derivative is 0 when the function is approaching plus or minus infinity. When x is approaching plus or minus infinity, and for getting the derivative of this function, we can use the quotient rule. So yeah, you guys can have a look on this. Like when we have a function, when we have to take the derivative of a form of function which has f of x by g of x, it will be g of x into derivative of the first function minus the second function into the derivative of first. No, this you can have a look at.
One question, Joel. When dy by dx is equals to 0, how does it imply that x is plus minus infinity?
So by getting the derivative, we get it to be 1 by 1 plus 4x whole square. So this can become 0 when x is equal to infinity or minus infinity. So you can see 1 by this thing will be 0 when this tends to infinity, or when the thing inside tends to infinity or minus infinity.
Oh, got it. Thanks.
So we can so as it is plus or minus infinity, we can't really say what's happening to the curve, as we can't really plot the maximum or minimum at infinity. It doesn't really give us any much information, but still we can find the double derivative to see how the function is approaching this extreme points, whether it's a maximum or minimum, whether it's having a positive slope or negative slope. So we can take the double derivative, and to the double derivative we can put this plus and minus infinity and see what we get. And essentially what we get is when x is infinity, it's a maxima, and I'm not sure whether we can call it a maxima, but when so by maxima, what I mean is when x is infinity, the function is having a positive slope and it's approaching it's approaching the point, and when it's negative infinity, it's having a negative slope. So I can show this by So for this function, so the total current information that we got is so the current things that we got is at minus 1 by 4, it's undefined, and this function has a root at root at 0, 0. So this function is passing through this point, and it's approaching two extreme points at either extreme for positive infinity and negative infinity. And from the double derivative, what the information we get is here it's approaching with a positive slope, which the function is kind of increasing in this regime, and here it's decreasing, like it's approaching minus infinity with a negative slope. So it's kind of behaving like this. So these are the three informations that we got so far, and to see which point exactly this function is tending into when it's approaching minus infinity and infinity, we'll have to see the limits of the function when it's approaching both these points. So first we can look into where the function is tending when the point is minus 1 by 4. So to see this, so here I think, so we can, what essentially I have did here is I am tending x to minus 1 by 4 from both positive and negative direction, and seeing where this function is tending to. So for in this function, yeah, so essentially what the function tending to minus 1 by 4 from the positive direction implies minus 1 by 4 plus some positive number when this positive number is tending to 0. So what it implies is, so we are approaching from this direction. So which means this point will be minus 1 by 4 plus some positive number. So this when the positive number h. So when this h tends to 0, the function will gradually approach this point. So when we apply that limit, we can see what happens to the function when it approaches 1 by 4. So you can apply this limit and do the simplification. And from here, you can see when h tends to 0, we can get rid of the h at the numerator as it's insignificant in getting in influencing the limit. And essentially, you can make the simplification and get it to be minus 1 by h. And when h tends to 0, it will be minus infinity. So what we got here is when this function is approaching minus 1 by 4, it tends to minus infinity. So we have already have a point 0, 0 here. So we can draw this function to be approaching minus infinity when it tends to 1 by 4. Similarly, we can solve for the limit from the negative direction, negative x-axis, and get the limit to be infinity. So which implies the function approaches infinity when we are approaching from this direction. This will be something like this. You guys are being able to follow now? So this, yeah. So similarly, we can apply the limit when the function is approaching infinity or minus infinity. So the only information that we need now is what happens when this function is approaching plus infinity and minus infinity. So which we can get by applying the limit when x tends to infinity and x tends to minus infinity, and we can do the same L'Hospital rule, apply it, and get the limit to be 1 by 4. 1 by 4 for both of the limits. So which implies this line will be tending to 1 by 4. This will also be tending to 1 by 4. So we can see the previous inference that we made that this function is having a positive slope in positive slope when tending to plus infinity is true here, and negative slope when tending to minus infinity is also true. The one that I draw here were wrong.
Are we going to use such complicated functions in the course?
Actually, we don't be using this limit application and all. So yeah, this
Okay.
something. Yeah, you only have to know. Yeah, it's good to know the L'Hospital rule, but it's not actually required.
Sure, but I had one more doubt. So in this last function, we use the quotients rule to get the derivative, no? And in the first function also, since it's a fractional function, shouldn't we use the quotients rule there too to get the derivative?
yeah, we can actually use, but the thing that we did here is we could actually make a simplification. Uh, so so this simplification should hold for this function x plus 3 for all points where the function is defined. So we can, yeah, so we can just play around with x plus 3, so which makes our life easier. So yeah, here we couldn't make such a simplification.
Okay, yeah. So because we could do that, the quotient rule was not required in the. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I can show you the actual, yeah, so this would be the function that we currently drawn. So you can see here this function, yeah, so this will be the form of the function. So the function will tend to minus infinity and infinity when approaching minus 1 by 4. It's somewhere around here, and will be approaching yeah 1 by 4 when x is tending to infinity and minus. Yeah, yeah, so that's all in the exercises. So is there anything I should clarify? So the range similar to what we did in the first exercise, it will be 1 minus 1 by 4 minus 1 by 4, as it's not defined at minus 1 by 4, and the range will be from minus infinity to infinity.
Can you go up a little? Sorry.
Yeah.
Further. Further up. Yeah. Here, like, no. The double derivative. No. Third part only. But this minus 2 by infinity, how did you get it?
Yeah, so here, okay, so the first derivative is, yeah, so this is the second derivative, minus 2 into
Yeah.
1 plus 4x square. 4x, actually this should be minus 3. So it should be minus 2 into 1 plus 4x minus 3. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it should be minus 2 divided by 1 plus 4x all cube.
Okay. Thanks.
So then, yeah, so then when we substitute x infinity and minus infinity, will become minus 2 by infinity, minus 2 by minus infinity.
Can you potentially send us these solutions for reference?
Yeah, I can either share it through Canvas or.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So then I think we can wrap this up and move on to our presentation. Yeah, so we initially had discussed about suggesting some functions which we could find in ecological systems. So I think we can now go back to that. And I think first we can go with the foraging behavior, and we can think of how foraging rate would be changing as a function of food density. So I think so what would be the simple relation that we could think the foraging rate would be changing with food density? It could be a linear relation, maybe.
Linear or exponential?
Yeah, now let it be linear, like it would be the simplest one. So yeah, so maybe let's try to plot it. So if x is the uh, foraging rate or foraging amount, and we could say t to be the total time spent to forage. So if it's a if in the x-axis it's food density available, and in the y-axis it's the foraging rate. It's a simple linear relation, and when we increase the time spent, we can actually see the foraging success also increases. So the resource so the slope of this function will be just the time spent to forage. So now we know that this is not the case in most of the systems. So this kind of relationship is what we call the functional type 1 response in foraging. So you would have heard of functional type 1, 2, and 3 responses. So this is the functional type 1 response. So now if you make it much more complex and make it to be a saturating curve, like so suppose if the function if the organism has some handling time required before foraging. So it won't be directly dependent on the time. The handling time will also come into play. So if we account for that, we could got something like this. So just look at the positive, this first quadrant, as it's biologically meaningless to see. Look at the negative foraging rate, and so here you can see. So T would be the total time spent to forage, and here also we can define some other quantity. So let this be capital T. Yeah, so capital T would be the total time spent, where the small t would be the handling time required for the predator. So we can see when we increase the total time spent, the foraging success. So this function saturates into some maximum quantity, but when we increase the time, it increases that limit. But when we increase the handling time required, it reduces that limit. So I don't want you guys to really focus on the functional form and all. I'm just giving a feel of how we can think of behaviors or relationships in ecosystems, and how we can mathematically think of those things and try to come up with a mathematical form for it, and just try to see how changing different parameters change the relation. So this would be a functional 2 response when a predator follows a functional 2 response with respect to the prey density available. So now we can further complicate this by making the function to be second order. So now what the assumption we made is this organism takes some time to learn to forage, and after which it becomes much more active forager. So at an initial time period, it will be having a slow foraging rate, and after that, when the further increase in resource will make this foraging rate to increase in a higher rate, and then it will saturate as we saw in the function. So this kind of response will be functional tree response. So is there any any doubt or clarification needed? It could be linear, a saturating curve, or something. So now we think of competition. So as you guys saw this functional form. So what would be the so if population density is the independent variable, how would you expect the resource available to change with population density? So will it be linearly proportional, or it will be changing as a square of population density, or it will be decreasing with population density? What would you expect the resource available to change? It should be decreasing with the population density, right?
I think it would be inversely proportional.
Yeah, it will be inversely proportional. So the simplest thing that we could expect will be 1 by x, but it's biologically quite meaningless, as when the population density is 0, it's showing resource available to be infinity. So we can change this a bit by making the change in the denominator, and now we can see when the population density is 0, we will have a fixed resource availability, and we can fix this to be some it could be the maximum amount of resource available in the population. So when there is no competition at all, when the resource density is almost 0, the resource available will be maximum, and it will be the maximum resource available in the population. And when the density increases, it will decrease, and the resource available for each organism will be decreasing as inversely proportional to the density. So here also we can play around with these parameters, and when we increase the resource available in nature, we can see that this curve is going upward, and we can, if we change the denominator accordingly, it will also affect this function. So I can share this PDF also with you. So here you can see some common functions used in ecology. So as we saw, linear and quadratic form of functions are polynomial functions, and the function that we saw currently, it will be a rational function which we can use to explain competition in a population. So for growth of an organism, we can see it as exponentially growing or a logistic function. So these things will be further explained in coming lectures. So I think it will be better for you to learn it from there. Yeah. So I think we can look into an exponentially growing population. So an exponentially growing population would mean so the independent variable will be time. So the function will be increasing as a function of time. So here the assumption is the resource is unlimited and the population can grow as to any population size as they want, and the only restraining factor is time. And here we can so here the initial population size we can change it by so the factor that we add here would be the initial population size. So we can change it. So so we can when we can see when we fix the initial population size to be 0, the population can't grow at all. When we change it and make it positive, the population can grow exponentially. Yeah, so this is the basic form of an exponential function, and we can further change this to have a rate here, which would further change this equation. So in biological systems, an exponentially growing population would be rare, or it would be only suggested for some bacterial cultures which have unlimited resources. For other systems, it will be a logistically growing system which tends to some carrying capacity, and it grows to a maximum, to a limited size. So the logistically growing population you will be learning in the coming classes. Yeah, so I think covered almost all I wanted to cover. So do anyone want any clarification or further explanation for any point or concept that we covered? Hi guys.
Thank
So
you.
I
Yeah.
just had.
Yeah. Mhm.
Sorry, I think Udita wanted to say something.
No, I just said thanks.
Oh, all right. Okay. So I just had one small query. So these exponential functions, can we categorize any invasive species into the study of invasive species as an exponential function? Would that be logical?
I think it would be at the initial phases of their invasion, like I'm not sure, but exponentially growing function implies that the function, the only constraint in the growth of that function is time, and the function, the population is growing at a constant rate.
Okay.
So the population size versus time would be an exponent of the rate that function that population grows. So, and for an invasive species, as there is no predator or any other constraints in that new ecosystem for that species, I think we can expect it to have an exponential growth
Yeah.
at the initial phase, but eventually it should be saturating as they will attain their
threshold limit.
their threshold, the carrying capacity in the
Correct.
current ecosystem.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other point to make? Udita wanted to say something. No, she always. I think then we can split. I will stop recording.